Welcome back, everybody. Today we're here to talk about the opening minutes we got for The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 14, titled Scars. This is a flashback scene in which Daryl and Michonne are looking for Rick, and it's a really cool scene, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. But before I do begin, if you aren't caught up with The Walking Dead, spoiler warning, and if you are a fan of The Walking Dead, hit that subscribe button, but let's get started. So I really like this sneak peek because it reminds me so much of Episode 5, and it basically is the continuation of Episode 5. You know, we have Michonne and Daryl going back to the exact spot that Rick got taken away by the helicopter, and this is interesting because that, I think it's gonna be a lot of hints given that Rick is alive, especially with his blood, because remember Rick was like, dripping out blood from his wound, and he was holding it, and I feel like since the helicopter took him away, the blood just disappeared. And we already had Daryl in episode 6 saying that, or episode 7 I believe, and 6, he said he couldn't find a body that, so he's been looking for Rick this entire time. And I really hope there's more indication though, because Daryl definitely has a feel that he's alive, and hopefully we get to explore that more, and actually see the evidence behind that. So the episode opens up with Michonne walking around in that area that Rick was found, and she finds Rick's cold python. It's buried in the mud, and she picks it up and wipes it off. And I just love how this whole sequence is shot. Like we have there's like a real nice song playing in the background. And then the episode does do a little bit of a cut, because the next scene we have Michonne, like in this scene right here, she's wearing a tank top, right? And then or that's like a muscle shirt, really. Damn, Michonne's looking buff. I mean, I'm not even joking. She's looking pretty buff in that. And then the next scene, we have her wearing a bunch shirt, with the cold python on her, belt. So I do think that it's going to be like two different scenes here, obviously. So here's the thing. When AMC releases opening minutes, sometimes they don't really release the opening minutes in its entirety. Like they kind of mess around with it. Because whenever I seen opening minutes before I actually watched the episode, when I watched the episode, I'm like, okay, that was a little bit different than the opening minutes. So I'm not sure if this is going to be like the end of that scene, like it's just gonna open up with her wearing this muscle shirt, she finds the cold python, and then bam, cuts to a different scene, or there's gonna be a continuation. But whatever the case is, it's not a big deal. I just kind of found that interesting. But after that, we have Michonne walking, and she is wearing, like I said, the cold python, and she comes across this walker, and we have Michonne as pregnant. This is actually pretty surprising. I didn't expect us to get a pregnant Michonne, but I'm happy we did, because this is a very touching and nice scene, especially where Dale's gonna come in just a minute. The interaction between them is super sweet, and I love it. And then we have Michonne turning around this walker and obviously checking if it's Rick, and I'm sure that's gonna be their core evidence that Rick is alive. They haven't seen a walker that looks like Rick, and I'm sure every time they turn a walker around, their heart just drops, because I'm sure they are terrified, and if they see that Rick is gone, that's gonna be like, yeah, game over, he's gone 100%. But we as fans know he's alive. But I'm assuming this is going to be like at least a couple months after, Rick's departure, because of Michonne's belly, right? So it's not an immediate pick up. But that scene I was talking about earlier when she's wearing the muscle shirt, I think that might be like maybe just like a couple days or a couple weeks after, Rick blew up the bridge. But this is obviously a couple months afterwards. And also, I really hope they discuss Jadis in this episode. Like Daryl and Michonne have an interaction here, but I'm going to get to in just a second. But they don't talk about Jadis in the opening minutes or anything. But I really hope in the episode they do, because this is like an Alexandrian episode. We're going to get a lot of flashbacks, and it's also going to be present day, but we're going to find out a lot about what happened between the 6-year time jump. And I really hope they at least bring up Jadis, like Daryl or Michonne. Like, what happened to Jadis? We haven't seen her in months. Like, did she also die, or like what's going on? So I really hope they acknowledge that, because I know a lot of fans, including myself, first of all, we're wondering if Gabriel said anything. I made a whole video talking about that if you want to go check that out on my channel. But hopefully these two, like at least somebody brings it up and is curious about what happened to this dumpster lady, right? And then we have Daryl coming in, and he tells Michonne that he followed the water all the way to the ocean and back, and there's nothing there. And you can see how hard they are looking for Rick. Daryl, I mean, first of all, Daryl was out for 6 years, but they're obviously trying really hard here. And then he asks like, Michonne, are you okay? Or like, are you good? And Michonne says like, Michonne mentions that her baby's been kicking a lot, and she says that she can't sleep anyways. But then she says, Judith has been asking about you. It's been a while since we've seen you in Alexandria. And then Daryl says, I'll be back when I find something. So that's really crazy, because if you think about it, he says I'll be back when I find something, and then we find out that he's been gone for 6 years. I'm pretty sure because at the end of this, Daryl kind of walks off, and I'm pretty sure that is the last time they saw each other until episode 7, when Daryl finally talked to Michonne again on the road. Daryl's also really reminding me of him in season 2, because remember how hard he was looking for Sophia? Like, even Carol was telling him to stop. And Michonne is kind of telling him to stop here also, because when Daryl says, "I'll be back when I find something," and Michonne says, "Plenty of reasons to come back. Finding something doesn't have to be one of them." So, Michonne wants Daryl to come back. She doesn't want him to go out looking for Rick all the time, just like Carol didn't want Daryl to go out looking for, Sophia all the time. So I love that about Daryl, and it's kind of like a nice parallel there. The only difference, though, is that with, Sophia, Daryl unfortunately found the walker, right? He saw the walker Sophia, but with Rick, Rick is alive, so he's not going to find a walker Rick. And, I know I've been saying in past videos that I can't wait for Michonne and Judith to reunite with Rick, and I can't, but the more they talk about Daryl, looking for Rick so much and him not believing Rick is dead, I cannot wait for Daryl and Rick to reunite. It's gonna be amazing. I mean, I don't know, I just cannot wait for it. It really sucks that we're gonna have to wait at least a few more years, but still, I can't wait for this reunion. And then after that, Daryl says that looks like I'm gonna be the only one out here for a while, because obviously Michonne is getting close to giving birth. And then Michonne says, "You don't need to do that." And Daryl says, "I'm not gonna stop looking, not ever." So you can see how hard he doesn't want to give up. But what's interesting here is that Daryl is kind of reminding me of what the fan base was. Like, he's kind of the embodiment of the fan base when we first heard about the Andrew Lincoln news. Like, we were in such denial, including myself. Like, I was thinking when that news first came out, I was like, there's no way they're gonna kill Rick. There has to be something up. And long and behold, they actually ended up saving Rick's life, and I'm super happy about it. But I just found this really interesting, because Daryl's like in such denial, and he knows that Rick is alive. And again, that's why I can't wait for this reunion. And then after this, Michonne asks if Daryl's gonna be okay alone, and then Daryl nods and asks if she's gonna be okay alone, and Michonne says, "I'm not," and then touches her stomach, basically signifying that she has kids. And then Daryl walks off, and that was when the opening minutes ended. But that walk off, I think, is pretty insane, because I think that might have been the last time Michonne and Daryl saw each other, because I still think, since this is the opening minutes, I still think we're gonna have like Daryl and Michonne flashbacks, because it is flashbacks. It's probably not gonna be in chronological order, but yeah, because remember in episode 7, Daryl once again told Michonne that he still couldn't find anything. So that's after 6 years. Like, think about that. That's so crazy. So I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting, but yeah, basically he just walked off and then went to go look for Rick for 6 years after that. Like, that's insane. I'm not gonna lie, after watching these opening minutes, I think I like Daryl like 1,000 times more than I did before. Like, this is awesome. Also, I forgot to mention, after Daryl walks off, they did this kind of weird shot of Michonne standing here, and they kind of make it seem like somebody's like looking at Michonne like through these bushes. I don't know why they did this. Like, if this isn't somebody actually looking at them, it's a little bit of a weird angle, if I could be honest. But I don't know, just the way this is shot, like, it looks like somebody's looking at them through bushes. I mean, it could be, who knows? But that's just a very interesting shot they decided to go with, if nobody's looking at them. If somebody's looking at them, yeah, I get it. And then after that, we have Michonne back at home, and she's cleaning up the cold python, and there's a box in the front of her. And they kind of stopped the opening minutes there, but back in the promo we got for episode 14, I'm going to put up the image right here. That box actually says Judith Grimes on it, so I'm sure she's just cleaning up the gun and then putting in the box for Judith, because we know now that Judith has a gun. We saw that in episode 6 when she saved the Magnus group. And I really like how she put the gun inside of the box for Judith when she gets older. And we know now, like I said, she has it, because there really is no point in using that gun. I'm sure there's like a lot of guns out there that are better than that gun and it can shoot better than that gun, but there's no gun that's as iconic as the Cold Python for Rick Grimes. I can never look at a Cold Python without thinking of Rick now. Like, even if I'm watching a different type of movie or TV show and I see a Cold Python, I automatically think about Rick. So think about that legacy, and Rick has basically changed the Cold Python forever, for me at least. But yeah, I really like those opening minutes. I mean, that was only 2 minutes of flashback, and I already love what we were seeing. So I cannot wait for this episode. I can't wait to find out what happened with the X scars, and hopefully we get a lot of like Easter eggs for Rick Grimes. times, just like the cold python, maybe they find other belongings to Rick. That would be really, really cool. So let me know in the comments down below, all your thoughts and opinions about, the flashback, and what do you want to see? What questions do you want answered in this episode? Because we are going back in time, so hopefully we get a lot of, and there's a lot of questions up in the air right now for The Walking Dead. So leave all your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I am going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like rating. And for more Walking Dead content just like this, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys later.